I was sitting with an elder, a teacher, Olpa Mitzli, that's his name. And I dared to ask him, I don't know if I am mestiza or indigenous or Mexican or Spanish. I was just like having this, necessity for definitions. He said, what makes you indigenous? What makes you indigenous? What is an indigenous person? What is the essence? And he says that the essence of being indigenous is the relationship with the land. That's the thing that makes a difference.
There's 7 billion people in the world. Not everyone's going to get this.
Great day, everyone. This is Gray Transforms. Today we are transforming with another great guest. This is Maria. Maria, I had mentioned to a friend of mine that also has known Maria that we were working together. Right now we are collaborating, co-facilitating a men's retreat later on this year in a couple of months in October. And I had mentioned this to a friend, and she said, Maria is walking medicine. And I could not agree more. Maria, how are you doing today?
Oh, excellent, Travis. Wow. What a great introduction. I feel nervous. I feel nervous now.
You feel nervous now. You have to match that energy. Oh, walking medicine.
Yes. Or I am even wondering what type of medicine.
Sure. Yeah.
What is the effect of the medicine? But thank you. Thank you for this space.
Absolutely. So, Maria, you have this past October, so last year, October 2025, you had held the Euritos conference in your space, which was the first time that Euritos, for those that don't know, the European Transpersonal Psychology Association, it was the first time that they had been on the Western Hemisphere of the world. And I thought that this was such an incredible opportunity, especially for those that are in maybe the United States or other countries that are here in their Western Hemisphere, because we always have to fly. So we had to take these 11-hour plane rides every time we're going to one of these countries where the Euritos conferences are being facilitated over there in the Eastern Hemisphere. It was such a wonderful opportunity. I was surprised that more people around here didn't want to grab that opportunity immediately. There was also kind of a cap on participation, and it was fully sold out. It was fully attended. And what was it like for you to have this honor and to have this opportunity to facilitate that conference?
Well, Travis, it was a journey that I feel that I am still like going back from that huge journey. And of course, as you mentioned, I was very honored to be invited to host this conference. Yes, in the first place, because as you mentioned, it was not only in this part of the world, but in Mexico, Mexican territory. So I felt also a big responsibility to create this meeting of different worlds. So for me, it was like a big, I could say like a initiatory journey of holding this space, of bringing people together, of opening the invitation of people, knowing what's going on in this part of the world, and also as Mexican, also feeling an honor to represent this territory. So it was great. And of course, as you mentioned, we created different containers, capacity and logistics, and just to relate to the territory, that was my main interest. And I was very happy that you came and we met in person and we even share very meaningful experiences. So yes, it's like a journey that I feel is still going on.
Yeah. Still integrating. I love that you just described it as kind of initiatory a little bit, and it did have this this beautiful welcoming of the Mexican culture into this realm of transpersonal psychology that I don't think has too explicitly been in the field. Transpersonal psychology does such a great job of of honoring and being inclusive of many spiritual traditions and cultures and all of those things, in as much as those traditions would allow, respectfully and in reciprocity with those cultures and things. But I haven't seen too much about that Mexican culture. But inherently, transpersonal, this idea, it's human. It's human no matter what the culture is, no matter where you come from. It is home in all of the territories, in all of the lands. There is this transpersonal element that is alive and well all the time, in and through all things. And so it's a beautiful thing to have experienced it in Mexico. I had been to Mexico a handful of times before, but never Oaxaca. And to do this during Day of the Dead, and there was so many beautiful elements about it. We could have a whole podcast on just the conference, just unloading all of the beautiful things of the conference. But I did have this great opportunity to be in this immersive experience as a whole through the conference, this immersion into the Toltec, into the Azteca, the Mexican, Mexican culture at all kinds of levels. But this immersive experience was so profound. And I did get this opportunity to be in spaces with you. Two of them were both a Temescal. And so for those that don't know, a Temescal is essentially a pizza oven for humans. It's a brick oven. Or we did two versions. I did two versions of it with you. One was the brick in the morning. And then I think on the same evening, I believe, I did another one with you that was like blankets folded over a structure. So both of these it's a sweat lodge, essentially. And that Temescal experience I've had one other time in Cancun. I was food sick, and then I was suffered through a Temescal one other time. But just every time that I came into contact with you and your teaching and your holding of space, I felt like I was gaining some profound insight every time. I remember in the Temescal you mentioning that that we heal where our feet are. We heal in our locality, in our we don't heal over there or over back there or anything. We heal where our bodies are, where our bodies land. So this is also an institute. How long have you been facilitating and holding this institute here?
Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the memories, because now you're helping me to acknowledge how important it is to open these spaces of reflection, because sometimes we are, I'm talking about my experience. Like, I was so much focused on the conference and, like the objective and, like left brain, like I'm going to do this and this and that, right, and the days. But now that we reflect and we go into the memory and the experience of it, even the emotions involved, the images, I feel very happy to have this opportunity, to go back and remember. And now, answering your question, I started to create this community of transpersonal psychology education in Mexico back in 2012. I decided that I really wanted to share these transpersonal approaches, these transpersonal perspectives in Spanish, in Mexican territory. And it was also part of a project with Martin Peake, an educator from Australia, and Sven Donner. He's Mexican as well, but he's more involved into the Jungian studies. So I was looking for a field of reflection, or a professional field where I could integrate what I loved, what I have been following as a personal path on integrating spirituality, culture, art, community. And then I found out, this is transpersonal psychology, So I decided to create this community. So we have more than 10 years going on in Mexico, and we offer these transpersonal trainings And over the years, we have created these programs where we blend or traditional cultures, where we integrate the psycho-spiritual maps that we have inherited from our indigenous cultures in Mexico. And it's very, for me, it's beautiful because what we call transpersonal, it's like I say it's a modern term or a modern word to name something that we live here. Yes, a form of spirituality that allow us to feel community, that allow us to feel connection to the moment in the day, connection to the moment in the night, to go beyond ourselves. And when I started to build this project, I never imagined that it will be something that brings me like today here, like speaking with people like you, or to opening this space for international communities. So it's like a soul's path, when we follow what we are, and then the world responds, and then we find ourselves just living our life in a more authentic way. So for me, that's transpersonal also, no? To not only a profession, but also a way of living.
So you're saying that you came across transpersonal psychology in 2012. That was your first touch with the
Yes.
field? Okay.
Yeah, with this, yeah.
That's about the same time that I came across transpersonal psychology. And then I
Mm,
moved from Omaha, Nebraska, the Midwest. I moved
okay.
from the Midwest to California just in search of education in this field. And that's what I spent the last 10 years doing. And you were you're cultivating this institute. That's really beautiful. How do you know like a rough estimate on how many students have been through the institute there?
I'll say like 100. I mean, we have small
Wow.
groups.
100 is amazing. Well, my understanding of Mexico is that I actually I met a friend in 2017 was my first time to Mexico. I had this funny idea that I was trying to integrate this message of self-reliance that I could rely on myself. I don't need to have like somebody like hold my hand through things. That no matter where I am dropped into the world, I'll be able to handle it. So I was trying to integrate this wisdom of self-reliance through a trip, and so
Okay.
through a traveling experience. So I decided I only told one friend, and I didn't even tell my mother, I didn't tell family or anything, that I was going to go travel to Mexico City. I had met a woman named Bia, and she speaks no English. She speaks as much English as I speak Spanish, which is muy poquito, and and so we still connected really strongly. I've told you before, and the audience knows, my first language is American Sign Language, and I believe that humans can communicate with one another. And so we were able to just communicate. We were just, a lot of it was like Google Translate or whatever, back and forth. Just this beautiful woman, and I really enjoyed her. Well, she, like myself, had just completed a master's degree of counseling psychology, and
Okay.
I thought that was really awesome. And that was like another thing that we connected on. We're both in the mental health field, and she described to me that well, in Mexico, not a lot of people are going to, a mental health counselor. They're not going to a therapist. And so it seemed to me that she really just got that degree for the love of the game. She didn't do that because this is going to be a lucrative profession in Mexico. There's still like quite a lot of room for development and progress when it comes to mental health standards and capacity and things like this. So I think it's incredible to hear you say that you have had, near or around or more than 100 people that have been facilitated in their learning experience through your institute in this transpersonal way, because what a beautiful influence on the profession and culture and things that those people can have in their sprinkled communities across Mexico.
Yes, actually, here in Mexico, we have, like, culturally, we have this alternative medicines or these alternative, therapies, and we have these spiritual therapies. We have, communities. We have other maps to address health, to address emotional health. I think that's one of the reasons why psychology, it's challenging because psychology could be, and I guess it happens in many other countries, that psychology could be like, medical psychology, where you have like, medicalization and psychiatry and diagnosis and all of this. Or you have this psychology, which is more like, everyday psychology. No, and then you have these meetings with people and you heal through speaking, and you go to your grandmother and you go to your grandfather and you have this community with you. So I think we're touching here this subject about culture and about frameworks and about how somehow like territory shapes consciousness, no? Territory shapes or way of relating and addressing some issues or journey or life journey. And that was something that started to be of a big interest for me, because when I studied psychology, my bachelor's degree in psychology, of course I studied like, Freudian approaches and Lacanian approaches and Jungian approaches. And that was very helpful and very inspiring, I would say, in a intellectual way. And at the same time, when I went out, to do my social service and to work with, I'll say, people in Mexico City, so I found myself very limited because the culture was different, the expectations was different, the pain was different. So these frameworks of Freud, Lacan, Jung, even though being so interesting, they couldn't fit, they couldn't make a difference. So very soon in my professional life, I started to wonder what I could do, how I can integrate or how I can relate to these people. And it was a big question that I feel my journey in transpersonal psychology has been shaped through these questions, how to really find, I'll say, a local psychology, but at the same time that it can be universal and help people to transcend all of the limits of the culture and society. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is those two different psychologies. One is more human. One is more mechanical, and it has its purpose. It's served its purpose. This mechanical approach to psychiatry and psychology and things has this medicalized approach has served its purpose, its design. But then there is a more human psychology that does actually meet the pain. And actually, when you're out in the field, nobody needs to know Carl Jung's model on shadow and, and I think I want to say it was Carl Rogers, but it could have been another psychologist. But I think it was Carl Rogers, the humanistic psychologist, that mentioned learn all of the frameworks and all of the Jungian and Freudian, learn all of the models and frameworks and things. And then when you are in that space, that therapeutic space with another human being, just be another human being. Just be that. Like, don't try to jam all the tools into that space together. Just be another human in that space. And I think that's right. That's how I think about reading. Even when I read a book, it nourishes me the way a burger would, or like the way a salad would. A salad is going to nourish me. The nutrients of that salad is going to move through my body. I'm not constantly thinking about that salad and how it is allowing me to move through this particular space. I'm just allowing it to be a part of me, the same way as those books and things become, they're influencing me in subtle ways, and hopefully I have the right discernment and critical thinking skills to to still have my own independent thinking and experience amongst all of that information. There is that dichotomy between this medicalized, industrialized psychology and the real human psychology. And then you spoke about, the kind of goals in a way of a transpersonal psychology is the transcendence of all of the things all of the limitations that culture can create. It's culture, it's interaction with others, it's society. It's not always so grand in scale. It can be very small, just in your the way that you interacted with your mother or your father can have these unintentional or intentional limitations created. And how do we continue to unwrap ourselves and transcend those things, or fix the fragmented pieces of ourselves to be whole? You had described your experience with reading, and you just described your early experience in psychology. So what are you reading now? Where does your nutrition of information come from now?
Great question, Travis. Yes, and I remember that conversation when I mentioned that I like deliberately I said I'm not going to read more psychology books. Yes, and it was very difficult because, of course, I don't know about you, but sometimes we are trained that to say that we need to, be intelligent and have information, and the more books we read, the more we know. But for me, I was having this, I would say, conflict, because I was thinking that, okay, I love this theory and this information, and of course, it awakens my imagination and it makes me, think in the wider sense. But I was finding myself like I need to put into, I'll say, parentheses, for a while, this perspective, this human life. I need to find what is autochthonous, what is originate in the homeland I am living, because I'm working with this framework of, the territorio. So I said, I'm going to stop reading these books, and I'm going to trust that there are other ways of, acquire wisdom and even information. So I started to study dances, to study even the Temescal, to study the clouds, to study the art crafts, to study traditions, rituals, and use them as books. Even going to archaeological sites, as we name them. So I was there and counting the stairs, looking the shapes. So I started to develop this sensitivity and understanding that there are many books that were written in this land and were left behind as source of information, and that we need to relate to all of this information and this knowledge in terms of our present moment. So what I'm trying to say is that right now in my life, I'm going to read something according to my awareness now. And, in 3 days, 5 days, I'm going to read a very different information. And this is challenging for the modern culture because we are used to be guided by letters and by what is written and agreements and all of this. But, mental health works very differently. It's like metaphor, symbols, images, fantasy, different meanings, plurality, diversity. And I think we need to recover this imagination and metaphorical language in the way we relate to knowledge, no? And especially for me, trying to look for a autochthonous psychology, a psychology that is not much influenced by medical models or Western's view of even masculinity, femininity, what is normal, what is not. So I said, I'm going to stop to read this. And yes, but of course, I love to read poetry. I love it. I love to read stories, myths, because they give us questions more than answers, right? So we keep wondering about life and mystery.
It was so poetic, what you just said about there are many books written in this land,
Mhm.
and you are now developing or have developed and continuing to develop this sensitivity
Yeah.
to have capacity for reading those books that are inherent in the land. I think that that is tremendous. It shifts in perspective. I once had a teacher in transpersonal psychology that mentioned, and I do use phenomenological research methods a lot, but this was a phenomenology teacher. And this man mentioned that he believed that for the transpersonal psychology research, a phenomenological approach is fundamental. It's like it's
Mhm.
foundational. It should be phenomenological research. And now I think there's room for other things, and there are many paths. We are faced with a tremendous challenge that is the integration of all of these things. But the lived experience, that's what phenomenology is. It is the study of lived experience. And how can you approach the land around you with a lived experience of reading a book, the lived experience of reading it as if it is a book to be read.
Yes.
That's really beautiful. How do you teach that to people? How should people watching this conversation? How should they interact with their surroundings to invite that sort of poetic relating to the land into their lives?
Well, first of all, to notice, where am I? Where am I? Where am I located? What is my location? Could be in the room I am. I use the center, I use the corner. What is my relationship to the very space I am in? What is behind me? What is in front of me? What is towards my right, my left? How is the light coming in? What is the wind? What is the life around me, right? Not only what I have in front. So just to start to feel how I am, embodying this moment. Also, what is the position of let's say, the sun? Mexica culture is a solar culture, so I follow a lot. What is the sun right now? It's like up in the middle, it's going down, it's going up, how it's moving. And also to know, where am I in the moment, of the year, what we call the seasons. Seasons are not only interesting and metaphorical and all of this. I mean, they create something in ourselves. Talking about this Eurotas conference, when I was invited to host this conference, I agree also because it was, in October. And in October, at least in this hemisphere we're living in, where Mexico is located, we have this season of feminine time, as we call it here. Here we have like two seasons. We have dry season and we have rain season. And actually, right now, the rain is falling, So we have these two periods of time that we like literally they are dry and rain, right? So we have wet and humid and dry and all of this. And then we understand, in order to relate to this, let's say, phenomena, we name it, no? So we describe the qualities. Okay, so in this cosmovision dry season, it is a masculine season, but also feminine, but the older feminine and it's like plural. And then we have August, September, October, November is feminine season. Yes. So when I start to relate to this, like observing, listening, smelling, touching, I start to wonder. I start to create meaning, the hermeneutics as well. So phenomenal hermeneutica. So we human beings are created to create meaning. Yes,
Mhm.
we are creative beings. And our first source of inspiration is the world around us. So we don't need to be complicated. We just need to start where we are. So where am I in the space? How am I relating to this space right now? How am I relating to the movement of the light? How it's my relationship with the movement of the year, let's say. how is my relationship with the darkness, with the light, with the water, with the fire? I mean, we can get complex. And that's the beginning, that's the starting point, Travis, just to be grounded, we may say,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
be here.
asking yourselves how are we relating to the things around us? How are we relating to the land and space that we're occupying in any given moment, and all of the elements and the things that are involved in that space is so easily forgotten in modern day. I can imagine that most people are, they're scrolling on their social media, or they're on their computer, or they're in their car, or they're driving to work, or they're at work, they're in the office, or they're at their job, and all those things, never asking such a question, never shifting their beingness to a place of uh, how am I relating to this? How am I relating to the things? Just asking themselves that question, contemplative of their ability to be relative and associating. I agree with you. We are human beings. We make meaning of things, and and if we're not asking our questions and sitting in that kind of meditative contemplation of what those things mean to ourselves, then those questions never get answered. And maybe the answers to those questions are so important for our healing and our bringing ourselves back to natural rhythms, back to something that is more organic, our essence. You and I have spoken about being in our authentic expression of our essences. How can we get back to our essences if we are not asking those questions? I'm not sure if we can. When you are receiving the insights from land and nature and surrounding, and you kind of map it over the cosmological frameworks and models of the Toltec and the Mexican cultures, when you take those insights and you map them over those cosmological visions, do you participate in the meaning making of those, or is it always something like relying on a meaning that you have been taught by an elder at some point in your life? Are you participating in the ongoing meaning making of those things?
Yes, exactly. There is a saying. Let me think about this in English. It's a saying that it says, "Don't follow the elders.
Mm,
Look for what they were looking for."
mm,
Like, ask yourself the same questions. Don't follow their answers. I think
mm,
it's like very very good image. So of
yeah,
course we inherit some knowledge and we want to follow this, but at the same time we know that we are co-creators of reality. Yeah. And that we need to cultivate this knowledge in order for this knowledge to go further and to stay alive. So ancestrality, let's say traditional knowledge, ancestrality is not an event of the past, like, oh, memory and nostalgia. It's a way of being. Ancestrality is a way of being. Even once I was sitting with an elder, a teacher, Olpa Mitzli, that's his name. And I dare to ask him, I don't know if I am mestiza or indigenous or Mexican or Spanish. I was just like having this necessity for definitions. He said, what makes you indigenous? What makes you indigenous? What is an indigenous person? What is the essence? And he says that the essence of being indigenous is the relationship with the land. That's the thing that makes a difference. For example, if I go into your house, Travis, and I visit your house, let's say if I am acting from the modern view of the Western view of, let's say, modern perspective, I'm going to first say hello to you, like, oh, hello, Travis, how are you? What have you been doing? I go immediately to the person, to the literal person. But if I come from a indigenous perspective, I go to your home and first I need to greet your space. I need to be aware of what is the light here, how is the life going on here. And first I say hello to your space. I ask for permission. I present myself to the trees in your door, or to the water you have. So I present first to the space, and then I present to you. And for me, that's also transpersonal. Transpersonal is going beyond like the person, that the only the subjectivity is to be aware of what is the space, what is the space you are living in, because that's your container, that's sacred as well. It's not only a background, it's the reality that is around you, and you are at the center of it, and you are co-creating. So it's like I am greeting, I am saying hello to the space you have created. Yes, because we're always co-creating reality. The same with wisdom, Okay, so I integrate this knowledge, but this is my version of this. This is my own aircraft of this. And that sometimes is difficult for modern perspectives, because we want one truth. Okay. What is the right version of this? And here we have plurality. And that's the richness of life, because, today I'm speaking to you about this, but if we're lucky enough in 10 years, I hope we may be speaking of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or from different perspectives or lenses. So we know that movement is constant, and we need to be moving. We need to be evolving. Yes. The same with traditional knowledge. It is in evolution,
So when you asked that elder those questions, when you were trying to find definition within yourself, what was the answer that you then came to? I heard you say that you kind of made your own way of relating to all of the things. Do you
Yes.
consider yourself indigenous then as a result of that, of being oriented towards initially greeting spaces more often than you're greeting people first? Something like that?
Yes. I consider that it may sound, I don't know how it's going to sound, but I'm going to share with you. It's like we need to learn when and how.
Mm,
So there are spaces and moments when we need to let's say to enter into a state of consciousness. No, so we need to enter into a state of consciousness. So we need the flexibility, but we need the options. So
yeah.
I go into the state of consciousness of, let's say, indigenous cosmology. Yes. So in that state of consciousness, I pay attention to specific reality. But maybe I need to go into the state of consciousness of, Western life and modernity, and I need to grab the car and I go. So I say, oh, it's not like I was born in this place and I have the determination, or I look like this. It's like, it's a choice, it's a choice we have as humans. How I can relate to this option? How can I relate to this option? How can I relate to this another state of consciousness? So I came to the realization that I have options, that we
Mm,
all have options. Yes. And that we choose. We are always choosing. We are always deciding how
mm,
I want to live my life, from what framework.
yeah. I
And
love
now,
that.
yes. And nowadays we all are a mixture, we are mixed. We are a mixture. So sometimes it's more important for me to be closest to this framework. Sometimes I need to read this book because I'm going to do a presentation. We have flexibility.
Hmm. I love that. Options and
Mhm.
cognitive flexibility, states
Yes.
of consciousness that you're shifting into for the time and the place, the when and where that kind of presents itself as the thing to do, and you're the one that gets to choose whether that's the right time or place to do that. It's just beautiful. I don't know why today I'm using this word tremendous a lot, but it is tremendous. It's It's a beautiful thing to have those options. I hadn't been introduced to the word indigenous in this way before. I think that that's really insightful from this conversation. I hope others really land on that. So this indigenous way of greeting, of entering a space may
Yes,
be that you would be greeting the space before the people. Somehow it is
yes,
relating to the land that is primary.
yes,
Relating to the
exactly.
land is primary, then the people, then the things, but that is kind of what makes you indigenous.
Yes.
Maybe native. It could be a little more abstract than that, I would imagine, but native to the indigenous side of things.
Hmm.
What am I relating to primarily first? It's beautiful. It's insightful. That's awesome. So great. Maria, it just as this conversation shows, you're walking medicine. You have all of this innate wisdom that you've gained from a very humble is very an interesting word that for me personally, that I've kind of wrestled with. Because by definition, humble is like to make yourself small in relation to something else that is somehow bigger or more powerful than you. And I don't resonate with that. But another way of meeting this concept of humility is understanding that there's an unspoken story in all of us. But you are relating to the land with such a reverence and humility that you're gaining the teachings from that. Super inspiring. And in that immersive experience in Oaxaca at that Uritos conference, I think that was like the initial seeds of this. But the more that I work with you and the more that we have this conversation and other conversations, the more that I am continuing to grow in that sensitivity, in that capacity, and in that cognitive flexibility to be in a perspective of the many options that one can have. That's beautiful. In sign language, it's options. So it's
Let me say something about it. That's very interesting, where you're
Mhm,
sharing this, because now sharing one image of what when we are trying to describe as, from the Toltec tradition, when we try to describe a human being.
mm,
Okay, so we describe human beings are like, like fingers of a greater hand,
mm,
and we all have our place in this space. So this finger is not trying to be here or the other one.
mm,
We all have a place. Each of us, we were born into a space,
mm,
and that space is with us.
mm,
Even though we don't live there anymore, or even though we don't like it, or even though through our story it got complicated, it doesn't matter the subjectivity about it. The space itself has influence in ourselves because we were born there. Like this finger lives here, and this
mm,
finger lives here. Yes, and we have these options. So what I guess what I'm trying to share with you is that also my interest is not about, going mainstream with Mexican tradition. No, it's not about it. It's just inspiring people to to go back to remember the places they were born.
mm,
Yes, because those places are in their cells, in their
mm,
bodies, and there is a wisdom in these places. And the more we remember where we come from, the more options, because we know where we were born, no? So the more options we have in order to go, wherever we want to go. Yeah, but we need, like support. We need a support that can precedes the movement that we want to do. And sometimes in modern life, we forget about where we come from, or it doesn't matter, but knowing where we come from is like a support, and we can go everywhere in the world. Just remember it, not being attached, not being limited, but just to have this. Because, imagine how powerful it is. Like the place where you were born is a place where the first breath you took. So it's so powerful. And that first, how do you call inhalation, or how do you call
yep.
inhale,
Inhale.
that
Yep.
It's the same you are working your whole life. And when we go to sleep, when we die, we just give it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But that does not belong to ourselves. So
Mm.
since we are born in the land, we are part of the land. We
Yeah.
are part of the spirit that was there, floating, and we inhale and then we go. And a baby is born and going to take
Mm-hmm.
from the space, the Akash, the ether, the Akasha, the Akashic. It's like many frameworks to
Yeah,
speak.
that's so awesome. That when you were born, you've now grabbed on to a
Yes,
piece of the hand, maybe, if
yes,
we are
yes,
the many fingers on the hand,
yes,
and now you're holding on through your life. You are
yes,
inhaling and exhaling this
yes,
piece of the hand of the greater
yes,
hand that we are all a part of, and at some point you will let go of that hand. You will
yes.
give it back.
And that's what we call, I don't know, you may have heard about the Great Spirit, no?
Mhm,
Great Spirit, Grand Spirit. That's a Great Spirit. It's
mhm,
made of all the exhalations of
mm,
all the beings that have lived.
mhm,
Like when we are born, we take in that inhalation. So it's a complex image, no? But that's a
mhm.
great, made
It's
of all the last breath of the ancestors.
yeah, it's a touching image. It's
Mhm.
great. It's meaningful. Now, you and I are co-creating. We are coming together to put on a men's retreat. Now, we had discussed many things. We've had several meetings about this retreat and what it would look like and reasons why and all of the things. But this is a men's retreat that is going to be hosted in Oaxaca on your land, in your space, and it will be an immersive experience opportunity for men to not only relate to each other, but to relate to an immersive experience into a Mexican culture. Even if it's not native to you, it's opening up your options. It's opening up your opportunities for experience in a way that is profound, in a way that is unique. I haven't heard of anywhere else where you could have this sort of experience. So Maria and I will be co-facilitating this men's retreat in Oaxaca in the first week of October. So that is Sunday, October 4th will be like day zero, but the 5th through the 9th. So that
Mhm.
first full week of October, it's such a beautiful time of year to be in Mexico, to be in Oaxaca. It is the culmination of all of this artesian, artistic, creative craftsmanship that has been going on throughout the whole year to celebrate the Day of the Dead, because it's during a wider window that is the
Mhm.
Day of the Dead. And that's not necessarily what our retreat is all about, but it's just a great time. And we were very intentional about picking, very, very meticulous and intentional about picking the right days and times that this will all culminate. And it's a beautiful thing. I'm so excited for it. What could participants expect from coming to the land, visiting Oaxaca, being a part of this retreat?
Yes, I'm very happy about this also, Travis. I'm very excited because for me it's also like a dream, that it's coming true, because we often think about retreats, like activities and what are we going to gain and everything, but we have been very careful on talking about these rhythms, different rhythms and different spaces and interspaces and gestation spaces. So we're designing an experience where we have come to a co-creation where what we want to experience is to be closer to our authentic self.
Mhm,
But not only, like, okay, I can feel my authentic self, but I can express it, you know Because sometimes we spend a lot of time also like, okay, I'm going to discover this, discover that, but we don't have the opportunity to express, to put into motion, to put into action, to put into relationship, the more special part of ourselves. So this experience is going to be a journey, and it's going to be a journey of where we are going to be applying all of this that we are talking about. We're going to be related to the land, relating to the sacred elements of life, fire, earth, water. We're going to be just also holding the space for pausa, for, this darkness. We want to have this container for men. It just was like, at the beginning, it wasn't that wasn't the intention, no? We just started like,
I think I had mentioned to you, I so often don't prefer the different ways of separation of like,
yes.
oh, well, it's maybe this should be a men's space, that should be a woman's space. I don't think that is ideally like serving a bigger image of what we would be collectively as humanity moving towards. But we did decide this to be a men's space because in transpersonal psychology, in the field, in the kind of conversations that we were, tuned into in modern day and in these days, it seems like there's a hole to be filled with these men's spaces. And so we did decide to make this one a men's space.
And also we want to speak about and experience about the duality, of course, right? Because your energy, my energy. So we want to experience duality. Duality is one of the main principles of Toltec culture, but not the duality that divides. No, not this opposite.
Yeah.
No, duality in the sense of reciprocity. Giving, receiving, balancing. So we want to experience these feminine qualities, these masculine qualities in ourselves, and find pathways of relating to this. And I feel that, as you mentioned, sometimes in transpersonal psychology, as we are trying to transcend limitations, as we're trying to go, spiritual, and we tend to forget that we have energy, we have qualities of energy, and we may need to have different maps and references for what is masculine energy from this framework, the options, no? And what is masculine energy from this other framework, and especially when we are exploring these energies and these other options, we tend to find ourselves reflecting, and okay, what was the software I inherit, and we find ourselves in stereotypes and in roles, but we want to go closer to the essence of these expressions, masculine, feminine, and it's more a quality than a role. It's more a quality than a preference. It's more like experiencing, and I find very interesting that we're going to have time. This is not like express, like, okay, 3 days. No, we need to open the space and time. And I'm very happy about this,
Yeah, absolutely. The time component was really fascinating as we were developing this, because it seems very the desert, in Mexico, the land there is, a lot of it is desert. You mentioned it being a solar culture. Slow doesn't feel like the right word. It feels like incorrect. It feels like it's patient, and that's what the relationship to time in this space, as you relate to the land here, is patient, and so it takes time, and it allows things to grow at their own pace and allows them to breathe and it allows the gestation to happen. The gestation is the where does this land with me? Where does it land in my body, in my mind, in my soul? Where does it allow more of me to return, more of my idea of myself to return to expressing my essence in a way that is significant to me, that is clear to me, that is going to offer service to the world around me, that I am in alignment with. It is curious to have a retreat that is going to have this dancing of feminine and masculine for the men-oriented human beings in the world, and the duality that is inherent in that Toltec culture. When I've heard people speak about non-duality, and I love, like, we go on and on with these lovely esoteric cosmological conversations. I love that kind of language. In the Indian culture, Aveda Vedanta is secondlessness, which I think is really cool concept. It's not oneness, it's not nothingness, it is secondlessness. So that it is without a second. That is a way of describing what I think a real non-duality is, a weaving together. And this culture in Oaxaca knows so deeply, so intimately about the weaving in the artisan of culture, and in the shaping of ceramic and clay and these things. Our joint intention, our goal, our intention, desire, a transformative container, an experience for a man to have, is not for them to only work on their masculine.
Yes.
And walk away hard as a rock and solid, and and just strict and sturdy and structured. It's not just that. That can be helpful also, but when you partner it, when you dance with the feminine quality that is in all of us, we have both masculine and feminine. I think that, Maria, something that maybe attracts me to wanting to work with you is that when I move towards a person, I recognize that they have a good balance of these energies within themselves. The roles that you take as teacher and facilitator, and having facilitated this whole space of the Eurotos conference and the institute that you continuously hold space for, there's logistic elements. There's people, workers, and all kinds of things to hold. And I feel this resonance with your ability to hold both of those energies well. And that's what we are aiming for in the men that come into our space and work with us, is this return to expressing their essence. And what are you at your essence? You are this weaved together masculine and feminine. So it's so valuable and so important for people to experience a true transformative experience, a true holistic development. It's by weaving those qualities together.
Exactly. And this, for example, this conversation, even ourselves, I have a moment like right now that I am expressing from a more masculine energy, where I am speaking, expressing, directing, and then you take on this more feminine energy of receiving, absorbing, getting inspiration, and then we change, and then you go. And this is very important, because going beyond the stereotype, of, okay, feminine is doing this, masculine is doing that. It's just like going back again. Like, it depends on the moment and the time, that we need to have options. What energy do I have to incorporate now? And then how can I move to the other one, and then go back without losing my root, my essence. So I can be, I can have a raíz, like a feminine raíz. And also I can have a masculine expression of this feminine raíz, or I can have a raíz, a root that is masculine. I have a feminine expression of this masculinity. So I think that also the inspiration is how to manage this. And a culture like the Mexican one that is not based on religious statements, like it goes from a different path, it's wider enough to offer to us images of masculinity and images of the feminine as well that are not, distorted by better, worst, like good, bad. It's more like energy that is available for all of us, and that we can embody this energy. And it's interesting because the more I can go into my essence, the more I can move beyond my essence, right? The more I can practice, the more the more I know what essence it's like embedded in my hormones, in my body, in my muscles, in my bones, the more I can explore different movements and qualities and rhythms. And I find that this flexibility is also what transpersonal psychology is teaching to us. Yeah, how
Absolutely.
can I go beyond my person, but also through my person, through what I am, and by my biology, my expression. And I find this very, visionary, and I'm sure it's going to be transformative for all of us.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In a container, in a space of
Yes.
retreat, a group together, we're all transformed by that. This is an opportunity for all of us to learn from each other and to have a beautiful experience with one another. This feminine masculine will work through all of us, and we will get to be in touch with the sensitivity towards the subtleties of shift as the masculine and feminine dynamics are back and forth, because the message being sent is maybe has a little bit more of a masculine thing as we're talking or lecturing or whatever that is, but then the receptivity, that is feminine. Can we listen? Can we have the open ears of receiving and the giving and receiving? Those are masculine and feminine. There's so much to be gained from this retreat experience. It is a men's space, so there will be things that are inherently more aligned to that distinct quality of masculinity relating to the fire, or certain experiences will be a little bit more oriented towards the natural masculine nature that moves through the men. But it is with the goal of returning to expressing our essence as the both of those qualities, this feminine and masculine. And it's just going to be such a wonderful, unique opportunity for everyone, especially those that have never visited Mexico or never visited Oaxaca. Such a beautiful place. I'm so excited. Thank you for being so open to do this with me. I just kind of reached out to you and I was like, hey, I want to build this retreat together. What do you think about this? And you're like, oh, let's meet about it. And it was so effortless in a lot of ways, and maybe that is a testament for both of us in, again, that resonance of balance in the feminine and masculine qualities. We've been able to work together fairly effortlessly, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That's something to be learned from too. How does the dance go between the masculine and feminine? And yeah, I look forward to all the men that get this opportunity, that answer the call of this opportunity, that bet on themselves and invest in themselves. You can't really put a price on an experience like this. These are the things you would want your resources to be spent on: experiences that allow you to be more whole, that allow you to come back to your community as more of a leader, as more of a balanced human being that is not so obstructed by cultural ties and locks and keys that have kept you from being able to express your essence. These weapons of mass distraction, we get to drop those for 5 days, not really a full week, but maybe you will take that full week to also experience other things that Oaxaca has to offer and Mexico has to offer. And you could really make this an inherently, ongoingly transformative experience for yourselves. And I plan on having an integrative container that will allow us to hold space with the group that arrives in that space and experiences this retreat. We will get to connect with each other as we come home, as we return. What do we return with, and how do we use what we return with? How do we continue to serve our communities? And what a beautiful example you are, Maria, in the ways that you serve your community as a teacher and as a woman and as a leader, all of the many roles and hats that you put on in order to offer a wonderful wisdom and a wonderful return of Mexican culture back to roots and back to remembering the land and relating to the land.
Thank you, Travis. I receive from my feminine essence. I receive all of this light.
That felt a little silly.
I really appreciate how we can express who we are through what we do and what we create. When it has reverence and reflection, it's very important to have witness also of what we're creating. And I feel that that's also part of this podcast, but also part of these retreats, no? Because we may be experiencing transformation by ourselves where we live, but always when we have a group and we have like witnesses, yes, and a witness that says, "Oh, I see you, and I witness your journey, and I am with you." This is very powerful too. So I really take this, what you're sharing with me, but also what we want to share, with this retreat, that to offer a community with witness that can help people to go back to their lives and don't go back to the same story, no? To help to have a community.
So powerful. Don't go back to the same story, to be witnessed by fellow men in that space of immersion into this Mexican culture. It's a beautiful thing. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, Maria. I'm sure all people, female, male, all genders, are going to enjoy this. And I look forward to this retreat. Again, the retreat is happening October 4th. We want you to arrive October 4th. October 4th is an arrival day. We are very intentional, meticulous about the timing and the space and the holding and all of those things. So a day of arrival is really important. And so you are arriving on Sunday the 4th. Sunday the 4th of October is day 0. It's arrival day. And then the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, we have full schedule of syllabus and programming and an opportunity to learn and be immersed in this Mexican culture and to be initiated into some ways that are natively masculine, and also some opportunities to be free in expressing a feminine essence that is also alive in all of us. And so it's going to be really great. Thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the inspiration, Travis.
Absolutely.
A pleasure.
All right. See you soon.
Who is this man talking? I'm talking to you. You are the realest one you know. And if you